My project this summer was focused on transfusion-dependent beta thalassemia in relation to bone health, and I had the privilege of working with Dr. Tariq Ahmad. Okay, so intro and background. So beta thalassemia major, which is the same thing as transfusion-dependent thalassemia, is also known as TM, which is it's an inherited blood disorder that's autosomal recessive, meaning that it's passed down through the abnormal genes of both parents. This disorder is transfusion dependent, like I stated, meaning that it requires regular blood transfusions through one's life in order to keep that patient alive. Regular transfusions can lead to many things, one being jaundice and another big one being iron overload, which is a condition where excess iron deposits in endocrine glands, leading to things such as growth retardation or bone health disorders. Because of its prevalence, we decided to focus on bone health disorders. Okay, so here are our research objectives. The primary objective for us was to examine the prevalence of low bone density, low vitamin D, low parathyroid hormone, and low phosphorus levels in patients with TM. These are all important factors in bone health. Unfortunately, another important factor in bone health is calcium, but we didn't have enough data for calcium to draw accurate enough conclusions, so we decided to omit that. As a secondary objective, we wanted to determine the link between bone density and low vitamin D, low parathyroid hormone, and low phosphorus levels. From preliminary research, it was understood by us that these all played a role on bone health. So we hope to find a link between these nutrient deficiencies and bone health in TM patients. Okay, so here are the methods we used. Pretty straightforward project, which I'm thankful for. The first step of our project was to gather data in a retrospective cross-sectional study. For those of you who don't know, it's a study where we had data that had already been collected in a data set, and we analyzed these through snapshots in time. Next, we analyzed this data. We had to determine like all these big hypo words, which basically mean low vitamin D, low parathyroid hormone, and low phosphorus levels, as well as low bone density. All of these low numbers were indicated by Children's Hospital Oakland predetermined lab numbers, and low bone density was assessed using DEXA scans, which is a way of measuring bone health in patients. Low numbers were determined to be less than 2 standard deviations below the mean, which is also called a Z-score. Okay, next, my mentor, Dr. Ahmad, performed statistical analyses on the data. Unfortunately, I'm not very strong in statistics. So in my findings, I'll explain the findings as best I can, but for those of you who are strong in statistics, you may understand it better than I do. And then finally, we analyzed all the data. Okay, so here are the findings I was talking about. These tables, there's a lot of numbers, but here's a table 1 above, which basically describes the socio-demographic statistics of our cohort. And then below, highlighted are our significant findings. We did find a positive association between age and DEXA Z-scores, from which we got from measuring the DEXA score of the spine, meaning that the older patients had lower Z-scores, meaning they had weaker bones. We also found a positive association between low vitamin D absorbed from food and good bone health. Because vitamin D allows for the absorption of calcium, and calcium is a bone-building nutrient, this finding is actually paradoxical and could be explained by the ages of patients in our cohort. The average age was 27 and a half years old. Bones usually stop getting stronger around the age of 25. So we probably had patients who were receiving supplemental vitamin D and already had weak bones in their lives. Okay, so here's some stuff for future research. So above, we had our limitations. One big one was sample size. We didn't have nearly enough people. We had a cohort of 87 people. We were hoping to get 250, but due to time constraints, we weren't able to hit this goal. We also didn't account for lifestyle. We know that like increase in exercise equals increase in bone health, and we didn't account for exercise in our patients. We also know that diet and exposure to nutrients such as calcium or vitamin D would have a significant impact. Also, background, we didn't account for that. My chemistry teacher let me know yesterday that some countries, like specifically in Asia, they don't have a lot of calcium-rich diets, so that could explain weak bone health too, but we didn't account for that. And then these are our next steps below. And then here are my acknowledgements. Couldn't have done it without any of these people. And thank you so much. Any questions?